Welcome back. Today's theme is airport. I don't think I can make an airport in 20 minutes, but when I think of airport, I think of a couple things. Like when I'm going to the airport, what do I bring with me? Well, I bring a passport if I'm traveling overseas, but that probably wouldn't make for the best model. Um, Bring myself, and I bring a suitcase. And I think a suitcase would be perfect for kind of the amount of time and the scale of the models that we typically make. For today, I am using this tutorial as kind of the basis for what I'm going to do. It's by Ei, maybe pronounced AA. I'm not totally sure, but shout out to them for the great tutorial. So we'll see. Maybe it will look like this. Maybe it'll look slightly different. Let's get started. So normally you would start by getting rid of the default cube, but a suitcase is already pretty cube shaped, so I think we can keep it. And what we'll do first instead is size it up. Maybe let's size it in the Z direction, the Y direction, and then maybe we can shrink it a bit in the X direction. And then we want to add a subdivision surface modifier, so we'll set it to here, and we'll go to edit mode. We want to add some loop supports. So we'll select edges, and let's start by selecting this edge. We will hit Control R to add a loop cut, and once we've done that, we can hit Control B to bevel, and we move it out to give it some support, kind of like that. Okay, and we do the same thing along this top surface, so Control R to add edge loops. This time we're gonna not like that. Control R. So we're gonna scroll up until we have no. Okay, my bad. We do one first. Control R, not Control R. Excuse me. I'm all over the place. Control B on the. There we go. Control B on the edge loop that we just made, and this is basically giving us support. So you can see, instead of having a more circular shape, now we have a kind of a curved cube. Okay, now we want to kind of separate it into a couple different sections, and so we can do this. We'll add 3 edge loops and just keep them right in place, and then Control B, and we'll have it just go out just a little bit like this. Before that, sorry, let's add edge loops here. Control R, not Control R, Control B. Okay, give it some support up here. And so now when we select this edge loop, and this edge loop, and bevel it, I thought it would only go, it's because we don't want the whole edge loop. We just want, excuse me, sorry, here we go. Go into X-ray mode, and we're just selecting kind of the lines that go up until where the curve starts. So the curve starts where those edge loops end, so we just select the lines that are in between that. And because we're in X-ray mode, we're selecting those lines on both sides. Now we can hit Control B to bevel, and we basically just want to give it a little bit of thickness, just something like that. Doesn't have to be anything crazy. If you want, you can play around by going into here, changing the profile shape. I don't know, let's play around with it for a second. I don't think that doesn't seem to change a whole lot. Okay, let's just keep that 0.5 in that case. Segments, does that, we can keep that at 1. Width, 0.03. Yeah, 0.03 looks good. Okay. Once we have that, we can hit Alt and then E, and that will extrude these, and then we want to extrude along the normals. So you can kind of see what would happen if we go all the way out. Let's look from the side, this will make it more clear. So Alt E again, extrude along normals. If we wanted to go out, we could go out, but we don't want to go out, we want to go in. So, ooh, whoa. Here we go. Basically just kind of give it some texture on the surface of the suitcase. Okay, so now if we come back, we can see that we have these like little grooves that go on the side of the suitcase. Nice. Now let's add the handle. So to add the handle, let's go to object mode, and we're going to make a new object. So Shift A, and we will create a, let's create a cube. Yeah, Yeah, let's create a cube. Okay, we'll hit G and then Z to move it up. And S and Shift Y. So basically you want to size it down in every direction except for Y. So that's what Shift Y does. Let's do it again. Kind of basically make a handle shape like that. Okay, go into edit mode. We want to select one of the long edges, hit Control R to add a loop cut, and we're going to do the same thing we did before, where we bevel that loop cut. Oops, hit right click to make sure it's in that default position, then hit Control B, and we'll add some supports here. Okay, and we want basically each of these edge sections to be roughly like a cube. It doesn't have to be perfectly a cube, but just rough. Okay, then we can select these two, and we want to extrude those down. So hit E, and it's already on Z. You can see that by the blue line, and so we'll go down to like here. Something like that. Nice. Okay. We can now think, let's inset on both of these faces. Oh, why is it only insetting in that direction? Okay, give me a sec. Maybe instead we can take this whole thing and, yeah, give it that handle shape. So I hit Control 2 to basically give it a subdivision surface modifier. Okay, now we can go back to here. And one thing we can do is go back to edge select, and we can maybe give it more support. Uh-oh, I think my blender's, hello? Oh, there we go. I thought it was about to crash on me. It happens every once in a while. So basically we want to come up here, so you can see that based off of where this edge loop is, we have a different profile for the handle. So we just kind of move it up close to that. And we'll do the same thing over here. Control R, left click, move it all the way up to here. Okay. Now we'll go 3, select each of these. Actually, let's do it a different way. So I'm basically trying to make the metal poles that come out of the handle. Before we do that, let's size this down. I think it's a little wide, so hit S and Y, and we can kind of, we did not select everything. Let's go make sure we're in wireframe mode and select everything. Now S and Y to kind of shrink it down a little bit. And then we can look from the side. Because we kind of shrunk the sides, we now have it, the sides of the handle aren't quite cubic, so let's hit SY here, and we can kind of stretch just that section out, and so now they're basically back to cubes. Obviously not cubes because it's curved, but you get what I'm saying. Okay, let's go back to object mode, and now let's hit Shift A, and we want to make a cylinder. So the cylinder is going to be basically the metal rod that comes out. Okay, G and Z to move it up, S and Shift Z to kind of shrink it. For whatever reason, it doesn't like making big movements when you do this shift, but you can kind of play around with it. And now we can go like that. Let's look at it from the side. GY to move it so that it's in line with the handle. Let's do GZ so it's roughly in the midpoint between the handle and the suitcase, and then SZ to size it up along that Z direction. Something like that. GZ to make sure it's kind of in both of them. Nice. Now we have that handle. Later, we're going to add a seam to the suitcase, and I think it makes sense to add that seam along the middle. So what we can do is let's take both of these objects and move them, not Z, GX along the x-axis, kind of just slightly forward. I think that's also a bit more realistic. Cool. Okay, now we can take this, the first cylinder, and we kind of want to add the second cylinder right here. We could do that by just duplicating it, or we can do it by adding a mirror modifier if we want it to be more accurate. So we want to flip it over the y-axis, and I guess we can choose this mirror object to be that. And that should do it. And look at that. We now have our suitcase handle. Nice. Okay, what do we still need? We still need some wheels. So let's create a wheel. What shape would a wheel have? What do you expect a wheel to have? I don't know about you, but I'd expect it to be roughly cylindrical. So let's take our cylinder. Let's move it down. We want to rotate it. So rotate and along the y-axis. Yeah, like that. Make sure that we've rotated it exactly 90 degrees. We have. Now we can use S and X to kind of shrink it so that it's more wheel-like. Size it down a little bit. Look at it from the side so that we have a better idea of where we're placing it. GZ to move it up. GX to move it over. GZ to move it back down. Okay, let's go into edit mode now. And let's add an edge loop to give it some support. Control R, click, Control B. Oops, we've made that. Control B to bevel, give it some edge support. Do it right there. Sweet. Now we want to select the side, so select the two big circles. And we want to inset twice. So inset once. This is kind of like the rubber part of the wheel, and then inset again. And so this is the kind of like the inside part of the wheel, and this is the axle. Okay, actually before doing the second inset, we want to take each of those, Alt-E, extrude along normals, and kind of just get it a bit inset. And then now we can inset again. Nice. Okay, sweet. So now we have a wheel. We can hit L to select the entire object. And let's look at it from the X side, move it along the Y-axis so that it's roughly in line with this. Maybe we can size it down just a little bit, move it up just a little bit. I think that looks pretty good. Now, obviously, we don't just want one wheel, we want 4 wheels. So how do we make the 4th more wheels? We can kind of do a similar thing to what we did with these cylinders up here. We want to mirror it. So let's add a mirror modifier. You can just type in mirror. And now we want to mirror it. We can, I think, maybe select, this is our mirror, the cube. Okay, so right now it's just flipping along the x-axis. We want to flip it across the x-axis, which is this, and the y-axis. So now that we've done both, you can see that we have 4 wheels. Look at that. Nice. Okay, and now let's add some colors. So we can have our nice suitcase. Oh, before that, I forgot, we need to, let's go to object mode. We need to add the seam for the zipper on this. So edit mode, we want to select these edge loops, I think. Or maybe just this edge loop. We want to Shift D to duplicate, right click. We want to, is it P, separate by selection, S, oops. Oh, now we have both selected. We just want this one selected. Use S, where is it? Oh, because we're still in object mode. Okay, go back. So we were in edit mode. We need to go to object mode, then make sure we just have cube 2 selected, which is our seam. I should really name them. Let's go do that. We have cube 1 is suitcase. Cube 2 is zipper. This is handle. Cylinders are handle rods. And then wheels. Okay, now we have everything named. Let's come back to our zipper. And so what we want to do is hit S to size it up just a little. Actually, no, don't hit S to size it up. Do hit S, but it's just XX so that we can kind of get it to this rough shape. And then we want to add a solidify modifier, and the solidify will give it some thickness. First, we want to, I think we want the solidifier over the subdivision. So you see these like 8 dots on the top right. You kind of drag that up. We want to change the offset, I think, to 1, and then make the thickness. You can kind of play around with it. I think this should be roughly good. Yeah, like a 0.04 meters. Okay, nice. So now we have, I think, the general geometry. Oh, I forgot. We want for our wheels to also have subdivision surface modifiers. So come down here, generate that. We can make it 2. And now you can kind of see why we added that edge loop support on the wheels, because otherwise it would have kind of shrunk along this axis, the side-to-side axis. But because we added those edge loops, we still have the general cylindrical shape. Nice. Okay. Now it's time for colors. So let's come here. What color do we want our suitcase to be? I'm just going to model my personal suitcase, the one I have. It's kind of like a teal, darkish blue. Maybe something like this is kind of like darker. A bit brighter than that. Something like this. And it's pretty glossy. Not super glossy, but I think we can up the metallic to like 3 and put the roughness down to like 0.2. And that gives kind of a suitcase-like appearance. Let's now come over to our zipper, and we want to create a new material for the zipper, and that material is going to just be black, roughly black. I guess it doesn't have to be fully black, but let's do that. We need to be in edit mode, I forgot. Select all of that, go down to our black material and assign it. And like with the materials, or like with the objects up there, we should name it. So this is suitcase blue. I'll call this zipper. Well, you can just call this black because we're going to probably reuse it for part of the wheel. Okay. Let's come up to the handle. Object, come here to the handle. Edit mode. And we'll create a new material. What color is my suitcase's handle? I think it's a similar, I think it's just like a darker blue. I actually don't know. I don't have it in front of me, so I'm just going to kind of guesstimate. It might be the same color, actually. I think it's a safe assumption to say it's the same color. We'll keep it there. Okay, and now we want to kind of add that silver for these rods. So let's take these. We'll create a new material. We'll call this call it handle silver. Come down to make it like a kind of grayish, light gray. Maybe we can kind of edge it towards blue just ever so slightly. And we do want it to be metallic. Maybe let's set it to like 0.6 or so. And roughness we want to reduce maybe to 0.2, just to give it that appearance of kind of metal. Maybe even up higher for metallic, maybe like a 0.8. Yeah, I mean it is metal after all. I think that looks pretty good. And if I forgot to adjust the values for this. We want roughness for kind of this rubber to be almost as high as possible, and it's not metallic at all. Maybe not all the way, maybe like 0.8. It still will reflect a little bit of light. It shouldn't be completely non-reflective. Okay, let's come down to our wheels, and I guess we can start by making them black, but they're not going to be entirely black, obviously. We just want it to be partially black. Okay, let's now isolate the one wheel that we can adjust the colors on, and we want to choose this inside loop. So right here, and we will make that our blue. Oh, not like that. Oh, okay, my bad. I forgot to make a new material. So we'll start by making it all black. Then we add the second material. The second material is going to be the suitcase blue. And then we can hit assign because we still have this selected. But actually, before we do that, I don't think we were in X-ray mode. So yeah, we didn't select the edge loop on this side. So hit Shift, Alt, and then click. So we make sure we have both of these sides selected. We're on suitcase blue. We hit assign. Now we have that. I don't really like this pattern. I think one thing we can do to help with that is if we select one, hit 2 to select edges, add an edge loop, but we want to, well, maybe not. Whoa, it is really lagging. Okay, I don't like that. I'm just not going to worry about it for now. Get rid of that edge loop. Maybe not. Okay, let's add the edge loop, but not move it. And then Control B to bevel. Control B. Sorry, it's really laggy. I'm not quite sure why it's so laggy. Hello? What's going on, Blender? Control B. Okay, maybe something like this. Okay, now let's select, go back to faces, select this face, and we can add a new material, and that material is going to be the same silver that our handle was. We can assign that. Okay, so now we have that. Okay. I think that looks pretty good. I'm trying to think what else, if anything, I want to do. Right now these wheels are kind of floating. That was what the tutorials looked like, but I figure we can kind of, maybe we can connect them. How would I connect them? So I guess what I would do is I would go to this, and I would go to object mode and accept the mirror modifier by hitting apply right there. And now if we go to edit, we can select this face and this face, and then I think you can right click and, is it bridge edge loops? I'm pretty sure there's some way to, is it F? Okay, that did fill it, but that's not the way I wanted to do that. Okay, so maybe let's not do it like that. Okay, maybe we select by edges, and we select this edge loop. And this edge loop. Oops, shift, select the edge loops. And then right click, then bridge edge loops. Does that work? Yeah, that's better. That's quite large. Maybe we can inset those first. I still don't understand why it's being so laggy, but that's okay. We should have done this while it was still mirrored, but it's okay. We can kind of individually do it. It's not going to take that long. Okay. Shift Alt to select these two edge loops. Right click, bridge edge loops. Okay, and we can keep it as that silver color. Let's do the same thing on this side. Take that face, and while hitting shift, so we make sure they're both selected. Hit I to inset. Okay. Right click. Oh no, we need to select the edge loops. So hit 2. Alt while clicking one of those sides to select that edge loop. Shift Alt to select the edge loop here. Right click, bridge edge loops. Let's get back out of this mode. Okay, so now we have our two kind of axles that connect our wheels, and maybe those axles should connect to the, I guess they don't really need to connect to the body of the suitcase. I guess they should, but I don't know quite how I would do that, and I think we're kind of running short on time. Oh, we're already over time. Okay. I like that. Let's just keep it like this. Let's create a good render. So right now if we hit 0, we're kind of looking at it from this angle. Let's zoom out. So hit Shift tilde, and we'll just hit hold S to kind of move back. we have our general suitcase right here. Let's make sure it's well lit, so we're going to go into rendered mode. We can select our light source, or go into object mode, select our light source, and let's move it along the y-axis, along the x-axis, come down to our data properties. We can change it to an area, and we can kind of click and hold this so that it's pointed towards our suitcase. And there we go. Now I think if we go into render and render our image, look at that, we have a nice suitcase. So hope you enjoyed that and found it useful, or if not useful, then at least enjoyable. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow. Peace.